Hey, what's going on, Q? Happy New Year, my friend.
You too, pal. You too. Always good to talk to you. All right, let's get right into it. First of all, we know that Hugh Jackson no longer a coaching candidate. Looks like he's going to ink a deal with the Cleveland Browns. You've got 5 spots remaining: the Giants, Miami, the Titans, the Bucks, and the Eagles. I think the Giants, the marquee job, because you already have a quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback in place. But the question is, when you look at the Eagles and you look at the Giants and you look at these other teams, I threw it out there today. Why not give Nick Saban a call? Why not? What's the big deal? Whether he turns around and says he doesn't want to coach in the NFL, he doesn't want to deal with the NFL, he's content in college, why not just give him a call?
I think you should give him a call. I agree with you 100%. Listen, when you've dominated college football the way he has, winning another national title, you have to think at some point it's in the back of his mind, hey, I wasn't successful as an NFL coach. Maybe I give this one more shot. What is there left for him to do at Alabama? I mean, obviously it's win more championships, but, Bill O'Brien, when he was at Penn State, said the same thing. If you want to be at the pinnacle of your career, you want to see if you can do it against the big boys. And, hey, if I'm the Eagles, if I'm the Giants, I do place the call to Nick Saban.
Let's talk about the Washington Redskins. The clock struck 12 for them against the Packers. What's interesting, too, is, Deshaun Jackson has kind of went about his business, and that play where he, we can say he coasted in, that's a 4-point swing. I thought that changed the whole momentum of the game, and Aaron Rodgers got much more comfortable in the pocket. They started to run the football with more authority with Lacy and Starks. As far as Washington goes, kind of a twofold question. What's the sentiment on the Redskins? Did a successful year or a wasted opportunity against Green Bay?
No, a successful year. I mean, this was a team that was picked to be, 31, 32 in the power rankings back in preseason, and in off season. And, so one thing I was impressed with, Q, honestly, is that a lot of the guys in the locker room after the game, some guys didn't even want to talk. Some guys couldn't talk. They were just that upset that their season had come to an end. And that was a sign of a team that felt like they could have, gone a little bit further. And I think a lot of them are looking forward to next year because they keep hearing, you guys are the product of a terrible division and a lot of injuries with the other teams. But the last time I looked, this team was hit hard by injuries as well, all across the board. And they had a lot of young players who were really some of the catalysts for a team that won the division. So you have to feel better for this team this year than back in 2012 when they won with RG3 and that whole thing. I think this year they have more potential going forward. And they've got a really good GM in Scott McCloughan who seems to know what he's doing now.
What's the future hold for RG3 going forward? I mean, it looks like that honeymoon has ended. Well, it ended a while ago, but as far as making it official, not semantics, what's the future hold with RG3? I mean, is this definitive that he's out in Washington? They're going to cut him come March?
Yeah, I think most people think that he's gone. He thinks he's gone. He's not going to say that publicly, but we've talked and. He likes it. He likes DC. He really does. He likes the fan base. But he understands it's a business at the end of the day, and he's happy for Kirk. Nonetheless, he really is. He genuinely feels like obviously he should be the quarterback, but he didn't complain this year. Didn't do anything out of character.
Yep.
To take the spotlight away from Kirk. And I can say this. Probably the first person they'll say this literally on your show, but. He told me literally after the game that he did not want to talk, to the media because he felt like it wasn't his moment. He felt like that was Kirk's moment, to not just talk about the loss, but at the same time talk about what they accomplished. And that's the kind of stuff that sometimes other outlets won't put out. But, right here on your show today, I'm telling you, he and myself talked about that one-on-one. And I think Robert's a really good kid that's misunderstood. That he does may be a little different from a generational thing, but he's a product of just social media age. These
yeah,
kids
but also to be fair too, though, like to kind of counter that, the one thing I'll say, and I want to move on to a couple other things. A lot of that too, he did bring on himself.
Absolutely, and I agree. I think he knows that. But he stayed quiet this year.
I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, and he stayed after every practice for another hour and a half, and worked on his craft, things that he was accused of not doing before. So hopefully he takes that with him to wherever his next destination is, and as far as putting in the work, learning the playbook, and just being a professional. I think that that's the thing that, unfortunately, a lot of these young guys come in the league and things are handed to them. And I say this all the time, not to make excuses for the kid, but if you're 22, 23 years old and you're given the key to the city, you're going to take it, bottom line. You don't know any different. And I think the whole thing was handled poorly as far as the organization, the way they made him out to be a rock star and then tried to pull it back from him where you can't. You kind of made your bed. And so I think both parties were at fault here, and I do think it's an amicable split. There's other destinations that are out there. I know people keep talking in Houston. I mean, there's some other teams that are interested, make no mistake about it. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes and if he's going to have a chance to start or have to earn a starting spot.
And that's going to bear worth watching. Couple more minutes with you. Appreciate it as always. The Burfict incident, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Two questions for you as we start to wrap things up. First of all, the kid got suspended. I mean, I thought whether it was a shoulder or not, I watched it at least 100 times. There was intent there. He didn't need to make the play, and his reputation preceded him, hence the 3-game suspension. Quite frankly, I would have gave him 5 or 6 because if you look at how many times this kid has been flagged and fined, just repeat offender. That being said, I'll get your thoughts on that. And then as far as Brown, if he does pass concussion protocol, I'm telling you right now, I think that's a huge mistake by the NFL. I know you get cleared by independent doctors, but with the concussion movie and everything going on, I don't see how he plays this weekend for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, getting to Burfict, I think, I agree with you. I think the penalty wasn't harsh enough. I mean, this is a guy that I haven't flirted around with. Hey, you've done it before. You suspended guys with lesser crimes for a year. This is a guy that has a history that, supersedes him. And I think, what he did was a travesty. It was very embarrassing for the league. It was embarrassing on a lot of fronts for a lot of people. And, he could cost a guy's job on top of that as far as a head coach. So, it's just a bad situation. I will say this, though. Antonio Brown, if you're a Steelers fan, you hope somehow, some way he can play. Because without him, I don't think you have a chance to beat Denver in Denver. But how do you play him? I mean, Q, you saw the same thing I saw. I mean, that did not look pretty. And on top of that, for Pac-Man Jones to keep coming out and saying that he stands by that the guy
needs to shut up.
I mean,
Yep.
He should be suspended for a year just for saying something that asinine. I mean, let's be honest. This is a guy that if you look at the replay, you can see the guy's eyes were rolling in his head before he hit the ground, and he could have broken his neck on top of that. I mean, it was just a nasty play. So the whole situation was bad. I do think the league, with this movie coming out, that's a good call on your behalf because if you play him, it almost looks like, you want your best product on the field
exactly
in harm's way. So that's a great call on it.
All right, listen, got about 30 seconds before I let you get out of here. Thoughts on the BCS title game, Alabama and Clemson? I'll say this about that kid for Clemson, the quarterback. Brilliant player. I love the fact that Clemson just showed a tremendous amount of heart in that game. But Alabama, at the end of the day, they're still Alabama with Saban. Yeah, they just wear on you. And I give Clemson credit. The irony is these two teams will probably be preseason 1 and 2 next year going into, this upcoming season. Clemson deserved, an opportunity to win the title. They did, but Alabama was just too deep, too strong. And you could just see as the game went on, they just started wearing guys down. But, hey, I'll say this, real couple seconds. The BCS got lucky with this game. They needed this type of championship game because the last 2 years, this playoff has almost been a joke as far as the blowouts that were going on. Okay.
So, this kind of saved a lot of people, a lot of the naysayers.
Yes, yeah, and it was fun to watch. It was a back-and-forth affair. Alabama comes out on top. All right, pal, we'll get you back on next week. We'll switch gears from the NFL. We'll talk a little hoops. I know you always like talking a little NBA. Appreciate it, as always.
Cool. Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.